Cool. So, hello all. Me and Brandon are here just to give you a quick, I say quick, it might not be, an overview of an experience that we both had a few weeks ago now, back in September. So, the both of us attended a MILSIM or a military simulation for airsoft. Yeah, back in mid-September. We went up to Catterick, which is North Yorkshire in the UK, for a 36-hour straight event, uh, and it was actually pretty cool, or at least that was my opinion. I think Brandon shares the same one.
Certainly. Yeah, it was really good actually. Very
Yeah.
good.
It was definitely something that was very outside of our comfort zone. Neither of us had done it before. We knew it was something we wanted to do anyway, but it was just, yeah, very much outside our comfort zone. So, this MILSIM was organised by Stirling Airsoft, a company that do this quite often. They do this at many different sites in the UK. The two that are the regulars are Catterick Military Base up in Yorkshire, like I said, and then a site called the Trees, which is near Hereford on the border of Wales, sort of central Wales. That's a massive forest. Catterick is a urban centre, an urban base, like a small town, which is awesome. So the purpose of the video really is, I don't think, or at least I haven't managed to find on YouTube many videos that are sort of give an account as to what a Stirling event was like. Stirling put their own videos out of what that they create themselves using their own videographers and drones and all that sort of stuff. But it's always a
Go check them out. They're really good.
yeah, definitely. I'll put links down in the description. But they're always from the perspective of the outsider looking into the combat, so someone who's not involved. This is just an account from what we experienced in the field for those 36 hours, as well as some really really positive things we've taken out from it, and some not so, or at least our opinion of some not so great things that we didn't like. So we left where we live about, I think it was, oh god, actually I can't even remember now. Is it about 7 a.m? I think I left mine.
Yeah, you
Is
left
it?
about 7. Yeah.
Yeah, so I left at about 7 a.m. Now, from where I live, it's about a 6-hour drive at best to get there. And it was about that, going up there. Coming back was about 7.5, I think it ended up being.
We did stop extra, to be fair.
We did, yeah. So it was a bit of a trek. Now, we did this, I left about 7 a.m. Friday morning. Grabbed Brandon. We drove, I think, pretty much straight through for the way up, I think.
One or two quick stops. I think it was like loo breaks. That was it, really.
Oh, yeah. We drove, yeah, like I said, one or two stops. And we arrived on site at about 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Now, we were the second lot of our assigned team to have arrived. The previous one had got there about 15 minutes before we did. So then we just started getting our stuff out of the car. We were assigned like a certain area for our team. Our team was called Cutlass, or Call Sign Cutlass, I guess it was over the radio. So that was we were then set up in this certain area, which was assigned to us. So we had brought more kit than I think we needed in the end, but we wanted to make sure that should it rain, we had shelter and stuff like that. So we sort of set our kit up assuming it was going to rain. I mean, this is the UK, so there's always that niggling feeling in our minds that it is going to rain. So we did that. We sort of set up, and over the course of the next hour and a bit, the rest of our team showed up. There were how many of us? Six of us? Or seven? Seven of us.
Seven
Of us.
7 of us.
None of us had, me and Brandon didn't know any of the others. We hadn't met them before. We were kind of the oddball group, all new players who'd never done it before. We were just shoehorned into a group, which had certain benefits, but we definitely felt at certain points where that was, we were sort of suffering at that point, where it was definitely a disadvantage. But we had from about 3 p.m. To set up until around about 9ish. I think.
Yeah, give or take nine or so. Yeah.
Yeah, so from this point on in this sort of discussion, we're going to be talking about the actual MILSIM experience rather than the setting up part. So each one in sorry, there were three people in the or four people in the squads that had specific roles within our team. So we had Brandon, who ended up being our TL, our team leader. We had a
Yep.
guy, I say a guy, who was might as well been a kid, really. Harry, who was our 2 IC, who was second in command.
Yep.
We then had a guy called Rich, who was our radio operator. And then we had two medics, didn't we? We had Ray and who was the other medic? Paul.
Paul.
Yeah, so we had
Yeah.
Ray and Paul, who were our two medics. There were five, so five of us had special roles. So at about, I think it was about 9:30. We had already chronoed at this point, but about 9:30, the team leaders and the radio operators got dragged in to a big meeting, which I'll let Brandon actually discuss more because I wasn't there.
Well, basically, it was a large meeting room with a projector where they went through the overall story of what had happened while we were there. And they also went through our objectives and what we were there to achieve. But they also went into a bit of detail on specifics like high value targets or HVTs. What HVTs we were just there to observe, which ones we were there to kill or capture. They also talked us through sort of ROE, rules of engagement, how to handle people, what to do in what situations. They didn't gave it more of a rough overview, but they did give you enough to work with. There were sometimes we had to make it your own best call, but they gave you a generic way of working. If someone was wearing a chest rig, had a weapon of sorts, or any explosives or ordnance, you were almost free to engage. But other than that, you weren't really greenlit to engage and harm anyone else. We could detain and hold people if need be, if we think they are HVT or otherwise. But again, it was all about trying to identify who they were. And everyone's changing clothes over the weekend. Changing as everyone does, changes clothes. So it was at best a bit of a guessing game sometimes as to you found the right person or not. But I'm getting a bit off topic. But yeah, that was what the brief was more about. More giving you and obviously to get everyone greeted so you know who's who and who's from what call sign type deal.
A major part of the game is how you as an individual approach it. I'm sure you would agree with that, Brandon. Where
Oh yeah, definitely.
A lot of it is to a certain extent role play. We were engaged in the field talking to people as well as fighting. Most of it was just talking. But anyway, so the sort of the briefs for the TLs came and went. The briefs for the radio operator came and went. So basically, the point of the radio operator is that he carries, in theory, either one radio that's dual band or two radios. Our radio operator ended up carrying two radios. One of them was on our internal Cutlass network, which was to talk to your own team. And then the other one was that you would use to talk to HQ, which call sign HQ1, I believe. Was it? Or just one? I can't remember.
You say 0 when you're going to talk into HQ.
Yeah, there we go. So it was 0. See, look, I wouldn't need this information because I wasn't the RO. But so their job was to keep us informed of the wider picture, and then for us to keep HQ informed as to like what's going on, because the guys who run headquarters weren't in the field very often, so they rely on what other teams are telling them to help the dynamic of the weekend go, which is awesome. None of the weekends are the same. They're all dynamic. It's great. So by the time that the radio operator brief had finished, we were all kitted up. So we had riffs at the ready. We had our tactical gear on. Our comms probably weren't checked at that point, but they were definitely ready from our point of view. And we were ready to go out on our first op. Now, game on for this weekend, because it was a 36-hour event, game on was 11 p.m. on the Friday.
Yeah.
So bearing in mind that me and Brandon had been up by game on, we had been up for approximately, 15 hours? Maybe 16 hours at that point.
Yeah.
So we were both pretty tired. However, that tiredness soon went away when you're down there in the courtyard, down on one knee, because that's how we signal to HQ that we're ready to move out as a squad. So we're down on one knee, and when they go, Cutlass, you're moving out, that's when the tiredness goes, because you're like, this is what I'm here for. This is what I've paid money for. So you're heading out the gate, and we start progressing through the sort of entrance to the big built-up areas, the sort of residential areas. Now, we were partnered with another team, call sign Sword. Yeah,
Yep.
I forget these things sometimes. Yeah, so we were partnered with them, and our job, and our only job at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, was to simply just patrol down the main drag.
To sort of get a feel for what was going on and get a feel for the atmosphere of the town, basically. It was also a bit of a recon and a show of force. So, even though we weren't there to engage anyone directly, we were there to show presence as well. It wasn't one of those, we're going in quick and fast and quiet. It was a demonstration that we're here. And we're going to be seen.
Yeah, because part of the scenario is that the Op4 team were... so their goal was to produce a certain amount of this stuff over the course of the weekend and ship it around to different buildings on site without us knowing. Effectively, that was partially their role. This was the enemy team. So for us, we were there the first night for a show of force. At around about midnight, we were round the back of some residential buildings in like a small sort of grassy... it wasn't really a forest, was it? It was more like a grassy area with some trees. And we came under fire at that point, if you remember that, Brandon.
Building 32, can't forget.
Yeah, we came under fire. Now, this was the first time we had heard shots fired the entire night. And bearing in mind, it was complete pitch black, but we were caught with our pants down for the most part. Now, luckily, we actually did somewhat fight off that engagement. However, we did take losses, but luckily with our two medics, we managed to get back up to full strength without needing to respawn. So that was definitely a benefit. I think I got my first set of kills that time. I got 3 that night. Bearing in mind that I could barely see what I was doing, I would count that as an absolute win. I can't remember exactly what we were ordered to do at that point, Brandon. Do you remember anything to weigh in?
Well, the objective of the op was to go out on 2 patrols, 1 patrol being north side, one patrol being south side. We were the Sword on the north side, and we were basically to go up along that road, patrol, show a bit of presence, make a small checkpoint at the top by 32, not pushing too far forward, otherwise we'll encroach on what another group called SSG were doing. And stay there and see what we can find out, basically. It didn't go quite the way it was supposed to. We end up kind of going out into the woodland bit, which we weren't fully supposed to do, but quickly cottoned that on. And when I figured out that, that was not what we're there to do, I pulled us back onto the road and we held there with Sword for a little while. And then, it kind of went a bit chaotic. Had a few encounters with civilians, a bit of heckling. As is part of the event, it's all obviously under the event.
It's redirection, isn't it? That's...
Yeah, exactly.
We can't just engage, it's not like a skirmish where, the moment you see someone not wearing the armband that you're wearing, bearing in mind we didn't wear armbands, but, you don't just, switch your gun to full auto and go, goodbye, motherfucker, and just start spraying everyone. We were kind of hanging around, making sure that there was a strong presence of us, and I think it got to about 1:30 in the morning, and us and Sword, so Cutlass and Sword, were then recalled back to HQ1, and that was the end of our first sort of stint in the field. Now, at this point, we did not know that there was a big op planned for approximately 8:15 in the morning the next morning. We didn't know about this, as you can imagine. We're not privy to all of HQ's plans. So what we then, as a group, decided was that we weren't tired and we would ask for another op. uh, which we were steamingly regretting
Oh
when we
yeah.
got back in. But anyway, so this next stop we were sent sort of roughly out of bounds, to be honest, over some barbed wire fences. We were climbing barbed wire fences, um, trying to navigate an actual forest with no night vision and no torches allowed, because torch would give away our position. There were still enemies around, so yeah.
So TLDR is we were supposed to sit there and observe these buildings and watch the movement and see if people moved any items of interest out of these buildings. They didn't. Just a little sort of seeing ahead in the story there, but we didn't know that at the time. And what happened was we were located due mainly in part to the other team having night vision and having a thermal scope. So we
Oh
must have been
yeah,
we were a beacon in the night, basically.
like a full
Um,
moon.
Pretty much. And Sword were also discovered, but Sword got engaged and fell back past us, but some reason could not communicate this to us, and all we saw was a blur of shadows running past us, and then suddenly the enemy were upon us.
Yeah, there were three of them, and we put up a good fight. Me and Brandon were the ones that were on sort of watch at the time. Brandon had sent the rest of the team to sort of get a
Have a nap,
short
basically.
nap in the field, effectively, and because I wear contact lenses, I can't sleep in the field. So I said I might as well just do the entire watch keeping with Brandon, which ended up being an hour and a half, I believe, an hour and a half of shivering for the most part and swaying side to side, trying not to fall asleep. Um, so it was about 5:30 a.m. when that contact happened, and we put up a fight. I'm not saying it was a good one. We were severely outmatched by night vision and thermals, and got our asses handed to us, really. So that was by the time we got back to spawn, it was 5:30 a.m. So me and Brandon have been running on 22 hours awake at that point, with no rest, no sleep.
This was mainly due to our own fault, though.
Yeah, because we asked for it.
Yeah, this is not a reflection on Sterling at all. Like
No, no.
this was our first time doing it, and it's a lesson I have sorely learned.
Our excitement, got us over, because that first night, um, if we had gone in when we were told to go in, we would have got about 7 hours sleep, which would have been significantly better than what we were running on by the time the morning came around, because we were supposed to be boots on the ground at 8:30, so we were all up at 7, so we had about an hour and a half's worth of sleep. It was pretty dog. But yeah, and truly it was entirely our fault. I'll add that caveat. We were the ones that asked for it, so that's not a reflection on your experience if you choose to do it.
However, that being said, I think I speak for all of them. We did have fun doing that.
We did have fun.
It was
doing it.
exhausting. It was exhausting.
Saturday was awesome, to say the least. I'm sure you could agree, Brandon. Saturday
Thoroughly.
was the reason why we paid money to be there. So we were up at 8:30, and our task was to go and basically go door knocking.
It was you and someone else. It was you and Beth, wasn't it?
Yeah, me and Beth. So we were going and knocking on doors, seeing if people were there, seeing if they'd let us in, basically to have a look around. We were on the prowl for anything illicit, effectively, any bit of contraband. So whether that be drugs, weapons caches, anything like that, we were looking for. Now, the whole time that we were in this building, which we did an insertion via truck, I believe.
Yeah, we were
Was it?
trucked in.
Yeah, because we did the truck twice, didn't we? So yeah, we were inserted to the sort of AO by truck, which was pretty cool. Like, it was a massive like Armour 3 style Ural, which was, well, it was horrible to sit in, wasn't it? There was no like support for you.
Yeah,
Especially
you got
me
a bench
being
seat.
tall.
I had to sit on the floor.
I think I'd rather have sat on the floor, to be honest, mate. Like the benches, I was too tall for them, so I was just smacking my head
Every
on
bump
everything.
you felt.
It
on the
literally,
floor.
yeah, it was.
Every bump you felt.
So I don't know what suspension that truck had. None, apparently. But yeah, so we were dropped in by a truck, and all we were there to do, we weren't there to cause trouble. We were just there to knock on doors, see if they'd let us in. If there was a door open, we were allowed to walk in. That's basically the rule. Now, pretty much, I think it was the second building I went in. I found a weapons cache, which I reported to Brandon, which we then shifted up the chain of command, and eventually HQ sent another squad out to basically blow that cache up with pyro. That was pretty cool. When we were doing all the knocking on the doors, the locals, or the enemy team, quote enemy team, they weren't the enemy, but not all of them were anyway. But the locals were getting pissed. They were annoyed, especially when they had to go at me for knocking on the door. He was worried that I was going to go in his house. It turns out about half an hour later they did let someone in and there was nothing to worry about. But the guy was possessive over his house, which he would be. He was selling bread, wasn't he?
The bread vendors, yeah. They had a
bread
folding table and everything.
Yeah.
And they would just set up like loaves of bread they'd clearly bought from Tesco or something and just be like, do you want to buy some bread? Some bread for you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no bread.
Yeah, because they were saying to me, they were like, do you want to buy some bread? I was like, no. They were like, oh, come on, I need you to buy the bread so I can feed my family. And I was like, well, why don't you feed them the bread? And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I know what I put in it. It's like, oh, right, okay. So it's all, it's all the little sort of role-playing, like, laughter. Like, I went around and found some guy selling car parts, have a nice role-play chat with him about it. I told him about me crashing my car and getting in real life, and getting a scratch on the front bumper. I told him about that, and I said how much to fix it. They quoted me fucking 500 quid or something. I was like, oh, cheers, mate. Yeah, it was quite hard. I think it was quite hard for you, wasn't it? Really, in relation to having to juggle the resources because, of what to do, because you can't do everything yourself. But then on the same score, we had to make sure, Brandon ultimately was responsible to make sure that the rest of the op went smoothly. So there were sort of issues going on sort of the other side of the small compound where he had stationed me. I was with two of our other members of the team who had never done any form of like major objective based gameplay before. They'd all been skirmish players. So I was posted with them, as we've done battle sims before. So I was posted over them, and it was quite difficult to, in that moment, shout people over, wouldn't you say, to sort of get more bodies. So because we also had to watch the left, So I didn't really see what was going on. I heard about it after it sort of happened. I didn't even hear the gunshot. It was at all. But I think then shortly after that, Harry got shanked, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It basically, they were talking to him about the way he was positioned with his riff, which is an MP5. He had he was pressing into the magwell with his knee, and a common issue with MP5s is that can easily damage or break the hop unit, because the hop unit's a very odd design.
Yeah.
But they used that to get close to him, and then they sapped him.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm like, oh, that's a very cheeky way to do it, but at the same time, he should have yelled them back.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He was a bit out of his comfort zone with that one, but bless him.
Yeah, he did well though. To be fair,
he did. He did.
But yeah, I ended up getting yelled over by Ray in the end. And then I found the situation. I was like, oh right, nothing I can really do.
No, it was.
I yelled the civilians back, and then I said, "You just got to have to hold the sector down."
Yeah. So that was that took us in. I think that entire op took us till about 1 o'clock ish. We then came back, and we were stood down for about 2.5 hours. I think it ended up being. Now, I won't go into too much detail, but suffice to say, in that 2.5 hours, there was a bit of a drama llama fallout within the squad, which was patched up. It was patched up for the better by the end. But all of us had been running on very little sleep at this point. An hour and a half within the last sort of. Well, at that point, at that point, for me and Brandon, it would have been sort of 30, maybe 28, 30 hours, something like that. We had like an hour and a half sleep in that time. So
sleep deprivation does some bad things to moods and morale.
Yeah, luckily, it did involve us, but it wasn't caused by us. We just suffered the consequences from it to a certain extent. But it was solved, so that's the positive thing. So after that, we then got intel that we were going in hard now, and we were to go to the place we were that morning, so the same compound, but this time we were going in, and we were going in hard. We were going in to kick doors in.
Yeah, it was trying to get entry piece if we could, but if we were told no, we tell them no.
Yeah, so
and make entry.
We had our assigned position, which was to support. It wasn't sword, was it?
No. We sword were not involved in this off. It was ourselves. I believe it was Saber, and I believe it wasn't Javelin. It was the other group. I can't remember the name.
Was it
of...
Black something?
No. You're thinking of Blackthorn. That was the SSG's code name.
Ah, right. Okay, so it might have been Javelin then.
No, it wasn't Javelin. It was not Javelin. I can't remember who they were, but there was another group that we were sent in with. There's a 3-strike team event where our 3 groups are going in, and the remainder of the TF team had to form a cordon around this area so we could do our job.
Yeah, so we went in. We were told that we need to take the garage area that I had the chat with those car parts salesmen a few hours before.
Building 10.
Building 10. So we were told that we're going in there to find intel because they reckon there's some stuff in there. So getting there and getting in was quite simple. Although we had a bit of a bust up of deciding how we wanted to do it, which kind of led to the incident that I mentioned earlier. But anyway, we got there. I think I was point man when I straight in.
Yeah.
Straight in, clear the building. We thought there were going to be people in there. We thought we had resistance. We had no resistance going in, so we took the building, captured our objective. However, the other team, which we can't remember the name of, were having trouble taking Building 8. Was it Building 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Building 8, there were 2 people. There were 2 militia people, enemy players, and I reckon
ton of pyro.
I reckon they had about 200 quid's worth of pyro just between them. And put it this way, like when you go to a skirmish or whatever, you want to use your pyro and you want to throw it in and you want to get as many kills as you can because it's expensive. And MILSIMs, they don't give a fuck. Like these people were chucking pyro the moment one guy walked in. They wouldn't risk themselves of shooting him. The moment one guy walked through the door, they were just chucking pyro. And we were trying to do it the tactical way, which ended up getting me and a few others killed. We then got rezzed via medic. However, I got killed again, dragged out, and because the medic for the other team that were with us was too slow, I bled outside, so I had to go back to respawn. They ended up having to take that building, and there's video evidence of it, in more of what I would say is a speed softer manner, where they just piled bodies in that door and they didn't care who died at all. And it was very funny to hear about and to experience. It was very, very good. Like we tried to do it tactically, with the whole peeking corners and chucking the pyro in, and it ended up being worthless. Like we just ran in the end. There was no getting them out. It was a really good angle that those 2 Op 4 players had. So we went back. I died. I died permanently, and then you died permanently not long after that, didn't you?
Yeah, I got stuck. I went. There was basically the main door of entry, then another doorway, and then the stairs. They were hucking this pyro down. And I got through the inner doorway and then killed by a banger, so I just tucked it underneath the stairs for my bleed out time. I must say, out of that whole experience, I am so glad I have ear protection because the amount of explosions was unheard of. There were just so many bang, 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 and I'm like, my headphones, they're designed to cut out when there's a loud bang, so it's audio for about a second, and then it would cut out for like 3 seconds, then come back in, and that over and over again.
It ended up being that we just couldn't hear anyone. Like I couldn't hear anything. But also, when we say bangers, we're not talking about like the stick Mark Fives that you can get from Flashbang Smoke. That wasn't what they were throwing. They were throwing the Flashbang Strike thermobaric singles, and then the multi-bangs. So they're really loud. Some of them going off obviously more than once because they were the multi-bangs. It was crazy. It was so smoky by the end of it, but it was really good. Really good experience that. So me and Brandon died. We were the only two that died from bleed out in our team. So then it was up to Harry to lead the squad. We were then reassigned to help search and interrogate some captured OP4 prisoners, which is pretty cool. It got to the point that we were there so long that they basically, well, the guy I was guarding ended up practically giving up. And because he was mates with Matt, who is the owner and site organizer for Stirling, he was just like, right, just take the cuffs off him now because he's given up, so we'll just let him relax now and he can stand up or whatever. And me and him ended up having a chat, and he recommended us try OP4 next time, which I think we're going to do. So these people are really nice people to go with.
Yeah, very friendly.
We then discovered, which we had no intention of doing, our second to last op of the weekend, which was another one like the first night, where it was like a scouting sort of mission, but we were also there to lock down an escape route for other teams, to make sure that, you know, we all pulled out, and we all pulled out in droves or whatever, and we didn't really see much action for the most part. There ended up being a massive friendly fire incident from the OP4 team. They were just lobbing mortar rounds and tag rounds at each other, thinking they were us. They weren't near us. They were landing about a good 30-40 metres away from our squad, and they didn't know we were there. So that was quite interesting, which we didn't know it was them, but we got told the next day that it was in fact OP4 v OP4 the previous night by accident. So we didn't do a huge amount that one. We were sort of securing the way for other teams. I don't think I'm missing much with that one, am I, Brandon? It was pretty...
No, it was interesting to watch these two sides, because I'm watching... Because I was bouncing between positions, making sure everyone was doing alright. But I was watching in the air, watching like the little fuses I could see, and then contrast to the darkness of the night, and just watching these little like fizzles of like pyro flying through the air back and forth.
Oh,
it was just
so
very
good.
entertaining.
So good. So at that point, that finished at approximately midnight, I believe it was. We ended up going back in. What we're going to do now is we've got a couple more bits to cover very quick. So we're just going to talk about our favourite parts and then our least favourite parts. I'll let you go first, Brandon. What do you think your two most favourite parts were for the weekend?
I think for me personally, it was my first favourite part, the absolute best bit for me, was when I was pulled aside into a private team leaders brief just for that attack into the urbanization.
Oh, the compound.
Yeah, because I was only in there with two other TLs, and these guys were switched on. They were really switched on, and it just felt very like, I don't know. For me, it felt very like I felt very humbled and very
It was an
privileged. Yeah, it felt like I achieved something, and they saw that we were doing well, and they gave us a bit of a nod saying, okay, you guys have shaped up, let's give them a chance. I think my other favourite moment, if I had to think about it, would probably have been the moment where we were talking to those guys at the bread stand and things, and you found that cache, because we did very well at setting up that cordon. With very few people, we managed to hold 3 ways into this place and to very minimal casualties.
Yeah, we were
sure.
a 3/4 strength squad,
Something
effectively.
like that, yeah. And we did well. We did very well. They're two of my highlights. They're the bits that, to me, I'm very glad went the way they did.
Yeah, so for me, mine's going to be like a bit of an overarching one, but my favourite part, or two of my favourite parts. First one is definitely the way that the actual event is run, and the experience that I had. So it was completely different side of airsoft to what I had experienced before, and I loved feeling like what I was doing was making a difference, and those spotting the enemies and keeping the overwatch and calling in, finding that weapons cache, everything we did made a difference. And then that was fed back to us via a somewhat private meeting with the event organizer, who turned around and said, "You know what, you've actually surprised us with how well you've been doing as a squad, considering you've never done it before." They were actually surprised and said you were doing really good. My other favourite part has to be that first night when we got ruined by the thermal site. Now, the reason for that, obviously most people go, "What? You got ruined?" I'm like, "Yes." But that sort of feeling of absolute defeat is actually quite rare when we play skirmish, and having done that level of recon, because we were there for nearly 2 hours in that position, recon in that area, and to be there that long without being spotted until the very end by that night vision and thermal scope, and me and Brandon still being able to put up a fight because the other part of the team was sleeping, so still being able to put up that fight, it was great. It was a great feeling. So on the back of that then, what would you say your sort of least favourite thing it would have been?
I think my... it's a difficult question. I think my least favourite thing would have been... It's a difficult one. I enjoyed so much of it, and I can't really... If I had to pick something that I think wasn't very good, I would say... While the big scrap at the end was fun, I think that a lot of the organisation was just suddenly dropped. I think it was obviously... There was a very loose plan, but I think a bit more organisation with all the squads working together. It felt more like they pointed us in a direction, said, "Okay,
Go.
this squad and this squad are going here. This squad's going here. Make it work from there." Well, that's fine, but I think more organisation would have been what I would have wanted.
The truck shenanigans that day was pretty bad.
Yeah.
We were inserted again into the area of a truck, but the rules are we're not allowed to shoot off the truck, so we have to get off the truck first and then shoot out. But the problem
They can't
is
shoot in either.
they can't shoot in.
That.
They can't shoot in. But the issue is that the moment your feet touch the ground at the back, they just light you up. So there was no way for you to get out of that truck to do the objective. So that saw us all off, really. That ruined it. A lot of me and a good few others were permanently dead at that point, so we had to go back and respawn.
I remember literally staring at the op4 as people were trying to disembark, and I'm like, I can literally... That guy is less than 15 metres from the back of this truck.
Yeah.
You're not going to make it 3 steps.
Yeah, that's a rule that I think should definitely be overturned. It should go
Probably
both
for
ways.
A safety thing.
Oh, I know it. I know that, but I think it has to be... It either has to be... a certain amount of either sensible driving, so you don't get dropped off in a hot area, or they say that there's a certain protective bubble around the truck that you can't shoot into, so you got to give people a chance. But that was more of an annoyance rather than a complaint.
Oh yeah, definitely.
My main problem really with the event was quite ironically almost nothing at all. It was mostly self-inflicted, because I went in looking at the event from too much of a logic point of view. Now I've had a very sheltered upbringing in the way that every night I get at least 8 hours sleep and all that stuff, and I'm very regimented with my sleep. So then I was thinking, they ain't gonna mug us off for sleep, because how are we gonna be safe to drive home? Because
Well, caveat that I did warn him.
Yeah, I know you did, but health and safety wise, I was like, we've got to drive back 6 hours on the Sunday. They're not going to mug us off with being tired. How wrong I was, and I wanted to, I was wanting to make sure that we got enough sleep. Obviously, we got the 8 hours the night before, which was nice, but definitely don't go in there with the expectation that you're going to have a lot of downtime, because you're not. You get a lot of time to sit down. Don't get me wrong, like that happened a lot for us when we were there guarding positions and stuff. You had a lot of time to sit down. I had a good position on the last night where I was sort of camouflaged in a bush a bit, but I had a good view of the map, so I just sat there on my ass. I didn't, with my legs out, camouflaged into sort of the bushes. That worked really well, and it meant I wasn't tired because I was sat down instead of standing all the time. So you get a lot of time to rest, but not a lot of time to sleep, which was my own fault. The second complaint I think I have, again, it's mostly self-inflicted, but somewhat unavoidable, was the team structure. Now, we're lucky it worked to a certain extent for us. However, I can see the benefits and downsides to putting all the new players together. Obviously, the main thing from a business point of view is that they're doing that so that we don't inadvertently screw other people's experience up by being inexperienced. So if they shoved us, I know this wouldn't happen, but if they shoved us on Sabre, which would never happen because Sabre are a actual qualified group that have to go through a trial to be part of the team. But if they shoved us with that, I'm never going to be able to keep up with those guys. I'm fucking 18 stone or whatever, and not built like a brick shit house, so I wouldn't be able to keep up, and that might inadvertently see them off. So I get it. However, it is quite frustrating that we didn't have anyone to learn from. But that was really the only things I have. I think the gameplay, the rule set, the overall experience was fucking awesome. And for anyone wanting that next push, this kind of segues into the next sort of section. For anyone wanting that next step in Airsoft, that want to do something that isn't like, you go from being the skirmish player to then going, I want to go try Speedsoft or whatever. If you want something that's a bit serious, because it is, as cringe as it sounds, Brandon, you'd agree, wouldn't you? It is taken seriously.
Yeah.
As if it was a sport and a competition. So,
but I love that.
Yeah, I did as well. I think it was really good. And if you're looking for that next step, and you like, I think MILSIM definitely appeals to people who like wearing all the kit more, because OP4 is OP4. But like when people think of MILSIMs, they think of people in MTP with plate carriers on. And if you want to experience that and utilize all your kit, it's a really, really good experience. I have almost zero complaints apart from what I expressed, and even then they're mostly our fault. But
yeah,
I think it was absolutely fantastic weekend. Going forward, we're going to be doing more. The next one I think is going to be OP4. I think it's going to be OP4. We're going to go for throwing shitloads of pyro at people. In terms of kit list, then Stirling aren't too fussy about what gun you use, as long as it's somewhat realistic. Like, you can't use a pistol with a HBA adapter. Just because you have an AK doesn't mean you have to be OP4. You can play TF with an AK, that's fine. You're not really restricted that way, you just need your mid-caps. In terms of the extras, we took a lot of kit expecting to use a lot of it, and we didn't. We didn't use a lot of it. On the list, we were told to bring stuff like toilet paper, which we didn't need because they had that all.
However, I want to caveat that if you go to the trees, they will not have toilet paper.
Oh yeah, so this is for Catterick only.
Or if you play OP4, you're living in the buildings in the town, and they do not have.
They do in the Portaloos.
Ah, okay.
Because they used the Portaloos, didn't they?
Yes.
They had them in there. Yeah, so if you play as TF or NATO, you get access to bunk spaces, you get access to plumbed-in toilets, that sort of thing. If you play OP4, you have a building with an optional roof and some Portaloos as your toilet. So pick your battle, really. But if anyone's got any questions about it or anything about kit, let us know. We have the experience now. We know what to take for next time and what not to take. I won't need as big of a bag, even though I will use the same bag. But
yeah, I
won't need to take as much. I didn't bother taking I took my helmet, but I won't take that next time. It was waste of space and a waste of weight, so I won't be using that again.
I just used a bump cap in a beanie or a cap. And it was very nice and very comfy.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And the reason I wore the bump cap is because if I go into a building quickly and it's a small doorway, I don't want to just whack my head on concrete.
Brandon's less prone to doing that because he's a short ass, whereas me, I have a proven injury of me smacking my head on a metal ridge.
It was funny.
So, yeah.
Overall, the event went really well.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah, definitely.
I will be back.
Yeah, we both will be. We'll be looking out for some more MILSIM teammates as well. But it was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, if you guys have got any questions, let us know. But for now, that is us. Have a wonderful, day, year, month, whatever.
Peace.
Peace out.